You're not here to survive. You're here to evolve, to lead, and to awaken to your true spiritual power as a man. When it comes to this journey of spirituality, I want you to understand that as a man, as somebody on the masculine spectrum, it's important for you to learn how to walk this path and to advance in life. My name is Peter Abundant, aka Dr. Abundant, PhD, ordained minister of metaphysical sciences, the study of spirituality. I am also the author of The Enlightened Shadow and Spiritual, Not Religious, both available on Amazon and Audible. As we take on this journey as men, as those on the masculine spectrum of humanity, it's important to recognize that though we are all one and we're all connected, that because of our gender, because of how we were brought up and how we identify, how we move through the universe, it's important to recognize that as someone on the masculine side of the spectrum, that there are certain ways, certain patterns, certain ideas, concepts that we are more inclined to follow, things that resonate with us, things that connect with us on a deeper level. And so as you go through life and you think about how you wish to leave your mark, how you wish to experience life, how you wish to live your life, you must consider the fact that you are a man. And with that, not only because of what society says a man is and should do, truly the essence of being a man is recognizing that you determine exactly how you want to live. And so what I want to do is I want to share with you some things to consider along your spiritual journey, along this journey of understanding yourself as a man. And the main thing is to start is recognizing the need to redefine masculinity, right? Especially through spirituality. Because when we take out spirituality and we just talk about masculinity, it tends to be so superficial, so shallow, that it really doesn't go into the depths, the power of what it means to be a man, what it means to be who you are, what it means to practice and move forward with this masculine energy. How, in fact, to move forward in a way that is empowering not only to you, but empowering to those who interact with you, those who engage with you, those who exchange with you. So you have to let go of these outdated ideas or images of manhood based on, things like power and control, because the true reality of being a man, especially a spiritual man, is recognizing that power and control doesn't happen by projecting your will onto other people. It doesn't happen by intimidating other people. It happens really by recognizing your own power, your own strength. And in that, you gain a sense of stoicism, calmness, right? Peace, even a sense of grace and gentleness when it comes to exchanging with other people. Why? Because you recognize just how powerful you are. It doesn't take you intimidating people. It doesn't take you speaking loud, cursing, being aggressive. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are a man, though those elements are very important when it comes to masculine energy. But to be over the top with it and over exaggerate those characteristics is not necessary when you're really in tune with your masculinity. You understand that those things are more internal characteristics, internal ways of being that show up when the time is right, when the moment is right, when situations call for it, not something that is always on, not something that is always expressed. right? So the man, the spiritual man, understands that when the time is right, those attributes of masculinity are then accessed, used, expressed. You see, you embrace strength through things like self awareness, things like emotional mastery, things like being consciously present. Self awareness is very important because as men, we have to recognize our own feelings. We have to recognize what's going on internally. When we don't recognize that, what happens is it bottles those things up. It leaves those things unprocessed. It leaves those things not dealt with in such a way that, just like anything, if you hold it in too long and you haven't processed it, it will erupt. It will explode. And so for us men, many times when we're not in tune with our spirituality, when we're not in tune with recognizing our emotions, recognizing our triggers, recognizing the things that irritate us, the things that bother us, recognizing even within ourselves when we're not really showing up in the way that we see ourselves and the way that we desire to show up, all those unresolved issues, if they're not processed, acknowledged, and dealt with, then they will basically produce a situation where you are even further away from your purpose, further away from alignment, further away from being the very best that you desire to be, which I often say is your true self. You see, there is no best version of you. There is only the true version of you. And throughout this journey, you are transcending, you are transforming, you are going through different phases of what it actually takes to get there, to get to that true essence of who you are. You know, and as a man, you recognize that that journey is going to look different for you, not only as a man, but also as an individual. But we also have to encompass the elements and the reality of what it means to be a man and think about that. You know, it's important to recognize that, you know, half the population are women. Us as men, we are the other side of that population. And therefore, there's a responsibility with being a man that is very important to acknowledge. You can't avoid something that is so prevalent, you see? So your responsibility as a man to really contribute to society, to humanity, to the universe, is recognizing this masculinity, using it for the benefit of all, right? Using it for the benefit of good from a place of love. And so when you get into practicing things like self-awareness, that just simply means you are constantly checking up on yourself, observing yourself, recognizing, okay, all of these different feelings, right? These feelings of aggression, these feelings of, you know, wanting to express yourself in a way that may appear to be violent, but it's really about expressing this masculine energy and feeling to take action, to do something, to be physical, right? That is leans into the nature of masculinity, whereas femininity is a little bit different, right? It's more internal. It's more emotionally inclined and based. It's more of about creating from a different space than from a man. Now, of course, I'm only speaking as a man for men, right? For that masculine energy. And so as a man, I recognize that the power of masculinity comes from the ability to actually practice self-awareness, to actually recognize what's going on within yourself. Now, oftentimes, society will depict the idea of going within, recognizing your emotions, your triggers as a sign of weakness. But the strongest individuals are the ones that know what it is that they're feeling. They just simply don't let it express itself outwardly, right? They don't just kind of explode off the cuff with whatever's going on. They're not triggered because they master their emotions. It's not that women are more emotional than men or men are less emotional than women. It's just that when you are tapped into your masculinity, you recognize that the power of using your emotions is in directing it appropriately based on the fact that you are a man. It's about recognizing that these emotions are to be put to practical application, right? Physical movement. Mastering your emotions is about acknowledging the emotions and then taking the power, the fuel, the energy of those emotions and directing it toward your goal, your purpose. You see? So being a spiritual man means leading, right, with from a place of alignment, not ego. Now, when it comes to men, it is common that men are often led by the ego. Now, when we talk about masculine and feminine, masculine tends to be led by the ego a little bit more than feminine. Feminine tends to be led by consciousness. Remember, we're talking about the universe. The universe consists of contrasts, right? Some people will say opposites. I often call it a spectrum of the same essence, where there's one side and then there's the other side of that. The other side often looks like the opposite. So if you have feminine on one side, you have masculine on the other side. You have consciousness on one side, you have ego on the other side. Men, we tend to lead or be led and lean into the ego or being led by the ego. And so you have to recognize that as a man, you must be more aware, more conscious, more cautious of your ego self. This is why when we look at the world nowadays, the world has been devastated, destroyed in many levels, okay? The negativity that's going around in the world is due to the fact that men are not managing their ego appropriately. They think that what it means to be a man is to conquer and destroy, is to take over, is to be aggressive, right? Is to not be mindful about what it is that you're saying, not being considerate about the feelings and the consideration of others. So you have to be at a space where you recognize the ego, though it is our natural inclination to lean into the ego. We have to be more mindful about using the ego. Okay. Now, the ego is not evil. The ego is not bad. The ego just simply has an objective. That objective is to separate. That objective is to create an identification, right? A separation between you and me, that and it, right? A understanding of danger. This thing that is separate from me can potentially hurt me, so I have to protect myself. It can potentially hurt my family, so I have to protect them. This is how it shows up for us men. I need to make enough money to support my family. I have to do whatever it takes. Okay? That is the mindset that is created from the ego. Now, again, there is nothing wrong with those things. But many times, if we're not managing and identifying what the ego is doing and how it shows up, then things get out of control, because then we have no sense of boundaries, right? As far as what is, what is right and what is wrong. No sense of a moral compass when it comes to doing whatever we have to protect our family, doing whatever we have to make money, you see, doing whatever we have to create the thing, to follow and to fulfill our purpose. So you have to just simply recognize what the ego is doing, so that way it doesn't control you, okay? But rather you control it. I'd rather say you manage it, you see? So you have to align with purpose. And that's the very next thing that you have to be mindful for, is purpose. In fact, purpose is probably the most important aspect of not only human existence, right? Our spiritual existence here in this human form in this physical world, but as a man is something that is so important to us that when we are not aligned with purpose, then we are lost. Then we are unproductive, right? Then we seem like we're worthless. A man needs a purpose. A man needs an objective, a mission, something to go after, right? We need something to hunt. Now, I don't want to use that term. I'm not in support of hunting, but it is something that we can recognize and understand as men. We have an objective. We have something that we have to do. This is what we're about. And oftentimes when a man understands that about himself and he has an objective, a mission, that usually resonates with women as well. To see a man like that. Ask any woman, what does she think about a man who has a purpose, an objective, a goal, versus a man who is just roaming around, maybe still a provider, maybe still doing the things, but just kind of coasting, just kind of drifting through life, So you must recognize purpose. And in order to actually fulfill purpose, even discover your purpose as a man, discipline is key. Discipline is the superpower. It's the cheat code. It's the hack. It's actually a thing that is going to get you to the point of identifying purpose, fulfilling purpose, living purpose. You see, it's really about building a daily routine, right? A daily practice. It can be something as simple as being like, you know what? I'm going to master meditation. I'm going to master self, reflection. I'm going to master inner alignment. It could be something very spiritual and esoteric in nature, or it can be something very, tangible and physical. But nonetheless, the more you practice discipline toward a particular goal, the more fulfilled you will be as a man. The more things you pull into that, the more fulfilled you will be as a man. This is why a lot of men, such as myself, can do something every single day. The same thing, as long as it is focused toward a goal, an objective. Right? That's the definition of discipline. Every single day, because this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm creating. This is my purpose. So you must figure out what it is that you are going to do every single day, no matter how small it is. Eventually, it will grow. Eventually, it will build up momentum, and it will grow within you and expand you, right? It will expand your consciousness. It will expand your masculinity. It will expand your fulfillment, your joy, your feeling of accomplishment, even though you may not have accomplished the purpose or the goal yet. Simply by being in the journey of it provides you with that fulfillment. You see, because that is our nature. To do, to be, to take action. You recognize that purpose, when you understand the importance of purpose, you see purpose as your compass, okay? It's your compass to spiritual growth, to coming into like true understanding as you are, coming into the true understanding as your ability to create your own reality, your own universe, right? It comes with, from a place of moving with intention. That's essentially what discipline is. That's essentially what discipline and purpose is. Moving with intention. When you have intention, then fulfillment, joy, and even success are just natural byproducts. So you must understand the importance of discipline. You must understand the importance of connecting with purpose. Make everything that you do connect directly, maybe indirectly, be related to your purpose, whatever that is. If it is a purpose that is momentary, meaning, you want to maybe build a tiny house, you want to run a marathon, you want to, you know, write a blog post every single day. Whatever it is, make that your purpose. Make that essentially your reason for existing in this very moment. Even if you're meant for something else, you being intentional, being disciplined, being purposeful will lead you to the actual, what I call cosmic purpose, like the true essence, the big picture of purpose. What are you here to do for what will your life actually be defined as? Why were you ultimately here? But it has to begin with the journey of being disciplined in curiosity and discovering your purpose, finding things that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, and then being disciplined about pursuing that. And then that will lead you to a greater understanding of what you're meant to do here. Okay. Another aspect of, say, discipline is stillness. Stillness is very important. It often looks like stoicism for us, being a stoic, right? Being somebody who is collected, calm, chill, right? This is what it means. This is what it essentially can look like when you are dialed in, connected with your masculine energy. Masculinity is not violent. It is not aggressive. Okay. Yes, again, those are elements, but ultimately, masculinity is cool, calm, and collected. Masculinity recognizes when it's time to take action and when it's time to sit back and chill. So silence and stillness, what that does is it sharpens your vision. All right. It sharpens your vision for the mission, the purpose, the objective. Okay. And that essentially deepens your power. It deepens your ability to, again, be disciplined, to move forward in purpose. So that's something that you really have to be mindful about, Then finally, as men, authentic action. We got to take action. Be a man of action. Because when you're not taking action and you're just simply in your mind, you have to consider that there's a disconnection with the reality of your physical body. Because as men, especially if we're talking about gender, even if we're just talking about in terms of identifying with the masculine energy, you are more inclined to be physical, somebody who has more of a physical presence. You may be stronger, you may be bigger. Okay. Now, with that means that there should be action that is always in application, always being taken in alignment with what it is that you want, because that is literally what you're built to do. You are built for action. Okay. So elevate every area of your life by simply acting from truth, not pressure, but just being mindful about, does this align with my desire? If it does, then go after it. Figure out what you need to do right now in this moment to get you closer to the objective, to the purpose. That doesn't look like you being, again, aggressive and mad and upset and cursing. That is not masculinity. That does not define a man. You see, a man simply means that he enjoys the process of purpose, of intention. So you can have a man who is more very serious, focused, maybe angry, aggressive, letting that out. But then you can also have a man who is just having fun, laughing, enjoying the moment, but still moving forward and being productive, being proactive, handling his business. This is the journey of the spiritual man. This is the way. This is the path. Okay? Your relationships, your career, your health, they all align with your purpose. They all align with your higher self. And so these are areas that don't get neglected. Yes, when you think about purpose, your purpose may be the very top of priority. And as men, there's nothing wrong with that. But you cannot completely neglect everything else. You cannot completely neglect your relationships, your health, especially. Okay? You use those things to fortify. You use those things as the foundation for your purpose. There is purpose, okay? Your health, your family should align with your purpose. They should not discourage you from your purpose. They should be in full support of your purpose. But also, your purpose is in alignment with providing for those things, for your family, for your health, for your well-being. So they are all connected. One feeds the other. And what happens is when you have those things aligned, it is continuously propelling you forward through a path of experiencing success, experiencing fulfillment, joy. You just continue to elevate. You continue to ascend in your life. So understand, progress is not about proving, okay? It's simply about becoming. It's not about proving yourself. It's not about gaining some kind of revenge on other people, because some people move like that. And as men, sometimes we hold grudges because somebody didn't believe in our dream. But it's not their job to. It's your job as a man to believe in your own dream, your own purpose, and move forward with that. It's about becoming. It's about recognizing who you are and becoming that. Nobody else can do it for you. So take ownership of this masculinity, this power that you have. Recognize that it's not for you to, again, project your will on others, to try to control others, scare others, intimidate others. That doesn't make you a man. That actually makes you weak. But the true essence of a man is somebody who recognizes his own power and moves forward, understanding that it is his responsibility to make his purpose, his dreams, his unfoldment, his self-realization, right? To actually fulfill that, to take action, to be cool, calm, and collected, to move forward with the understanding that you are already a man. This is not about becoming a man. This is about acknowledging that you are a man. And now is your time to simply remember who you really are. Thank you so much. Feel free to go to drabundant.com, subscribe to my daily newsletter, and get access to this free ebook, The Power Within. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.